For more on that plan, let's talk to one of its architects. Brian Deese is the director of the White House's National Economic Council and one of Joe Biden's top advisors. Brian, thanks so much for coming on the show. $2 trillion is obviously a huge amount of money, but there is a huge job to be done as well. And some people are arguing that this money is great, but simply is not enough. Have a listen to Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez last night.
This is $2.25 trillion over 8 years. For context, because these huge numbers are hard to understand, for context, we passed an almost $2 trillion COVID relief package that's supposed to last us 1 year, with some provisions lasting up to 2 years. So the $1,400 stimulus checks, that big package that we felt in our lives, were deployed on a shorter timeline.
Brian, doesn't AOC have a point?
Well, it's great to be here. And I would say this is a historic plan. It's the single largest investment in jobs in modern American history. And its goal is to do something a bit different economically than the rescue plan. The rescue plan is intended to speed relief to families and businesses right now. This jobs plan is a capital investment plan in America. And so the design is really intended to allow us to build, rebuild, repair, and position the country for the future. So this is a big and bold plan, but to your intro, the details matter, the specifics matter, and we feel really good about the fact that targeting things like upgrading all lead pipes in the country, making sure everybody has access to high-speed internet, the largest investment in R&D in the nation's history, rebuilding 10,000 bridges across the country. These are the kinds of concrete goals that we need to do, and it's spaced out right over time.
And one of the goals, Brian, isn't it? One of the goals is to fight climate change, an existential threat to humanity. There are a lot of climate activists who, again, say, great start, good money, but they're worried it doesn't do enough to address the danger. A lot of these climate activists, as you know, they've criticized you for having worked at the investment giant BlackRock. They question the agenda of some people in the administration. They say that if the administration seriously believes, if you, Brian, genuinely believe that climate change is an existential threat, then a few $100 billion over 8 years is just not enough, and we don't have the time. What do you say to those critics?
Well, look, I would say if you look at this plan, every element of this plan is designed to both build to the resilience of the future, where climate change is affecting every element of our lives, but most importantly is investing in the foundations of moving our transportation sector, our power sector, our industrial sector in a low carbon and zero carbon direction. So again, I think the specifics matter, but what's so important and exciting about this plan, I think the president made clear, is that this plan will allow us to fight climate change while creating millions of clean energy jobs upgrading our nation's power lines, jobs transforming the transportation sector and investing in electric vehicles, and making sure that we build those components, we build that new power and transportation sector here in the United States.
And Brian, we all want more clean energy jobs. We're glad it's in the bill. But the New York Times is reporting on union concerns and quotes one staffing firm as saying a standard solar project would employ about 250 workers for just under a year. About 1/3 of the workers make $30 an hour or more. The other 2/3 have fewer skills, make hourly wages of less than $20. By contrast, the construction of a gas-powered electricity plant typically lasts 2 to 3 years and employs hundreds of skilled, unionized tradesmen who make $75K a year or more. Brian, how do you convince union members they'll still be able to support their families under this infrastructure package?
Well, look, I think you design and put a plan out just exactly as Joe Biden did in Pittsburgh. You heard Joe Biden explain he is a union guy. And this plan reflects the reality that we need to invest in good jobs. And as we make federal investments, we need to make sure that they're connected to requirements, that we're improving job quality. We're giving people an opportunity to join a union. You know, you mentioned a cabinet meeting at the top. One of the things we talked about in the cabinet meeting today was the issue of Buy American. As we make these significant investments in America, we have to make sure that these investments are tied to U.S. production and U.S. jobs. It's not easy, but I think the way you do it, the way you bring everybody along, is you show that these investments can actually have benefits to our communities as they are going right at the existential threat of climate change. And I think you've seen from the UAW to the IBEW and others, there's energy around the prospects of making this kind of historic investment in building things and rebuilding things here in America again.
I hope so. I truly hope so. One last question, Brian. Back in the day, the Democrats, especially under Bill Clinton, were obsessed with balancing budgets. You yourself, during the Obama days, used to talk of fiscal discipline. Is it fair to say the Democrats have now ideologically moved in a more progressive direction where deficits aren't inherently evil, where government spending is a good thing, something to be proud of?
I think what you've seen from President Biden and certainly his whole economic team is a view that we are in a historic moment. This crisis has exposed big weaknesses in our economy. And what we need to do is we need to deliver with big, bold solutions for the American people. The American Rescue Plan was a case in point. We made the case that we needed the risk of doing too little far outweigh the risk of doing too much. And these investments in the American Rescue Plan are going to more than pay off in terms of growth for the economy. Look, we need to do this smart. We need to invest well. But now is a time to do big, bold things for the country. And I think you see that reflected in the American Jobs Plan.
Well, I, for one, am glad to hear you say that. Brian Deese, we'll have to leave it there. I've got to say, great painting behind you. Don't know who did it, but thank you for making the time tonight. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was my daughter.
Good on her.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.